Got my Jot coffee in me and I'm ready to rock and roll. As a reminder, this story is not about me. This is a story from Reddit. If you end up stitching this video, make sure that you're making it clear that it's not me who's this person in the story that you're going to make look like an asshole. We're not doing that again. Nope. Don't forget, you can get 20% off on Jot Coffee, which is at jot.co, by using the code DUSTY20. Am I the mud trumpet for selling my house and not renewing the lease of a family with a sick child? Don't forget, the story's not about me. Throwaway because I have too many friends on Reddit. I, 47 male, inherited a property from my father 11 years ago. For the past 5 years, I've been renting the house to a nice family with a young child, 5 male. They've been great tenants and there haven't been any issues. A month ago, I was approached by a realtor about selling my property. He had a buyer who was interested and ready to offer $60,000 over market because of the location. This was an opportunity I couldn't pass up. My tenants have a lease through mid-March. I've always renewed every year around this time. I contacted the husband, Michael, and let him know that I would not be renewing this time. To say that he was upset was an understatement. It turns out that he and his wife are currently in hospice with their son, who has a terminal heart condition. The doctors gave him a month or 2 to live. I knew the boy was sick, but I never knew it was so serious. Michael told me that there is no way right now that they can pack up the house and find a new rental in time. The hospice where they are currently in residence is over 3 hours away, and he thinks it's terribly unfair that I expect him to sacrifice any of the time he has left with their son in order to move. He called me a heartless sociopath. I suggested that they have a family member take care of the packing and finding a new place, but the only family they have around is the wife's elderly father. I'm not sure that I believe this because they are too young to only have one parent between them, and I'm sure they're a sibling somewhere. I then suggested they hire a moving company to handle the packing and try to find a rental online or possibly an Airbnb for a while. He claims he can't afford a moving company because of the son's medical expenses. I feel bad about the situation and I realize I'm making things harder for them, but it's not my responsibility to take care of them. I've given them the legally required notice. My wife thinks that because of the money I'll be making, I should offer to pay for a moving company and an Airbnb after they leave the hospice. I don't want to do this because it would cost me a big chunk of the profit from selling the house, and again, their situation is not my responsibility. This is the risk people take when they rent. My wife is now giving me the cold shoulder. So, am I the asshole of selling my house and not renewing the lease of a family with a sick child? Edit. The purchase agreement has been signed. I'm not selling to a developer, but to a family that needs to move to the area for their son's schooling. I'll call the buyer and explain the situation, and then if they choose, they can contact the tenants and make arrangements. Okay, so this is all super unfortunate. It's an unfortunate situation. I don't know that it goes anywhere beyond that. Once he accepted the offer to sell the house, it's not like he could walk it back, and he's right, it's not his responsibility, but I do feel like he needs to do something, not because there's any kind of requirement to do it, which there apparently isn't, but just to be a good human being and to show some understanding and some empathy for what they're going through. That can be as simple as reaching out to the new buyer and explaining the situation to them and seeing if there's a way where they can continue to stay in the house on a short-term lease with the new buyer until they have time to find a place and explain the situation. Once he's accepted the offer, there's not a whole lot that he can do. What would you guys do in this situation? Because this one is super complicated. He only accepted the offer because he was going to make a big chunk of profit. Now, the flip side of that coin is they've been great renters for years. How long did he say? 5 years. Okay, so they've been there for 5 years with no issues at all. And I don't know what kind of profit he's made from them in that amount of time, but there is some profit to be had there, I'm sure. And if he inherited the property, there was at least a decent amount of equity in it, if it not being 100% paid off. For the sake of argument here, let's say that it was all profit. So it was whatever market value was plus $60,000. He's got a chunk to play with there. He shouldn't have to, and he doesn't have to, but he's got a chunk to play with there to do something to go above and beyond for this family that has been headache-free renters for him for 5 years, which is a big deal. And if he does do something, it's showing appreciation for that and showing empathy for the situation that they're in right now, because it sounds terrible. The father has every right to be upset because that wrench thrown into an already terrible situation is just that much more terrible, but he doesn't have the right to lash out at the property owner. The property owner didn't know. It's not his responsibility to make sure that everything's soothed over for them there, but I understand the frustration. And when you're already hanging by a thread in that kind of situation, receiving this kind of news that you got to pack up and move all your shit when you're not even there and you're with your child who is in hospice and on their final days, I probably would have flipped out and said the same damn thing. Doesn't make it right. I just understand the situation and it's terrible. It's absolutely terrible. As I was reading through this, my gut was saying, make a deal with the new owners. Really try to advocate for your current renters to the new owners and say, hey, here's what's going on. If you could give them 6 months, whatever amount of time that you can for them to have more time to make this happen and just extend the current lease agreement, but with the new owner, that would probably be the best thing to do for them. And then that would at least provide a little bit more stability and a little more time for them to get through this phase. The phase that they're in right now is going to last a while though. And once their child passes, obviously their life is going to be turned upside down. So I don't know, man, this is a tough one. This is absolutely a tough one. I don't think OP is the asshole for selling the house here. I mean, it was theirs to sell and somebody approached them with an offer to buy it. I think if OP does nothing at all and just says, screw you, then they're the asshole. Not because of any kind of requirement, but from the benchmark of being a decent human being. And at minimum, reaching out to the new owners and advocating for some kind of extension of the current lease would be the way to go in my point of view here. What would you do in this situation? And if you think OP is an asshole here, where are they on the ascon scale? And don't forget, this is not a story about me. I know I shouldn't have to say it, but so many people have been confused that I do. I have to say it.